They called her just a medic and laughed when she asked to fly the A-10 Thunderbolt II close air support mission. The grizzled attack pilots at Bagram Air Base thought some field hospital nurse couldn't handle the Warthog's brutal ground attack role until Taliban forces pinned down her medical evacuation team in a deadly ambush. And suddenly, everyone realized that Doc had more low-level combat experience than their entire squadron combined. The dusty wind of Afghanistan whipped across Bagram Air Base as Captain Nicole Rivera walked from the field hospital toward the most feared ground attack aircraft in the American arsenal. The A-10 Thunderbolt II sat on the flight line like a mechanical predator, its massive GAU-8 cannon jutting from the nose like a weapon designed for apocalyptic warfare. To the close air support pilots preparing for another day of hunting Taliban fighters, she was just another medical officer, someone who patched up wounded soldiers while they delivered death from above to America's enemies. At 31 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a regulation bun and the lean physique of someone who'd spent years carrying medical equipment through combat zones, Nicole looked exactly like what she was supposed to be. A flight surgeon who monitored pilot health while others flew the dangerous missions. She wore medical corps insignia with minimal decorations, her understated appearance designed to maintain the cover that kept her real background classified from all but the highest command levels. What the A-10 pilots didn't know was that Nicole had been flying close air support missions for the past 7 years, conducting some of the most dangerous low-level attacks in Iraq and Afghanistan, using aircraft that didn't appear in official records. Her classified logbook contained over 2,000 hours of combat flight time in modified A-10s, including 423 close air support missions where her medical training had proved as valuable as her flying skills for saving American lives under fire. The morning briefing called for close air support coverage for a medical evacuation mission in the Kunar province, one of the most dangerous areas in Afghanistan, where Taliban forces had been increasingly effective at ambushing American recovery operations. A medical team would attempt to evacuate wounded Afghan National Army soldiers from a remote outpost that had been under siege for 3 days. Major Tom Harrison led the A-10 flight, a veteran attack pilot with over 800 hours of Afghanistan combat time who'd built a reputation for precision strikes in complex urban environments. His wingman, Captain Stevens, had considerable experience providing close air support for ground forces operating in Taliban-controlled territory. Both were skilled pilots who understood the deadly requirements of low-level attack, flying in areas where every building could hide enemy fighters with shoulder-fired missiles. But the medical evacuation was facing complications that threatened to turn a routine recovery into a complex combat operation. Taliban forces had been observed massing in the area, and intelligence reports suggested they were planning to use the evacuation as bait for a coordinated ambush against American forces. "We need additional air support for this mission," Harrison told the squadron operations officer. "The threat level is too high for standard medical evacuation procedures." Nicole, who'd been monitoring the discussion while reviewing medical evacuation protocols, stepped forward. "Major, I'm qualified to fly close air support in the A-10. I can provide the additional coverage you need." Harrison stared at her with obvious disbelief. "Doc, you're a flight surgeon. The A-10 isn't a medical helicopter. It's a tank killer designed for ground attack against heavily defended targets." Nicole pulled out her flight records, showing current certification in all A-10 weapons and navigation systems. "Sir, I maintain flight currency in close air support operations. I'm qualified for combat missions." The operations officer verified her credentials with surprise that quickly turned to confusion. "She's right, Harrison. Her records show full combat qualification, though I'm not sure why a medical officer would need attack pilot certification." Harrison reluctantly agreed to include Nicole in the mission, primarily because the evacuation's complexity required maximum air support coverage. "Fine, but stay high and provide overwatch only. Ground attack flying requires experience you don't have." 45 minutes later, all 3 A-10s launched from Bagram and headed northeast toward the Kunar province. The formation climbed to 15,000 feet before beginning their descent toward the target area, where they would coordinate with ground controllers to provide precision fire support for the medical evacuation. Nicole settled into the familiar rhythm of low-level combat operations, her hands moving across weapons controls and targeting systems with unconscious precision that came from years of actual combat experience. The A-10 systems felt natural to her, despite months of flying only administrative missions. Her medical training had taught her to remain calm under pressure while making life and death decisions, skills that translated perfectly to close air support flying. Dustoff 7, this is Hog Flight checking in for close air support, Harrison radioed as the formation approached the target area. Hog Flight, Dustoff 7. We're taking heavy fire from multiple positions. Taliban forces have us pinned down in the landing zone. We need immediate suppression of enemy positions to complete the evacuation. Harrison acknowledged the call while studying his targeting display, which showed a complex urban environment where enemy positions were difficult to distinguish from civilian buildings. The medical team was caught in a kill zone with limited cover and no easy escape routes. Nicole immediately recognized the tactical situation from her years of conducting similar missions. The Taliban ambush was perfectly positioned to maximize casualties while minimizing their own exposure to air attack. Her medical background helped her understand that the wounded soldiers would die without immediate evacuation, while her combat experience told her exactly how to neutralize the enemy positions without endangering friendly forces. Hog Lead, I'm seeing muzzle flashes from the compound at grid 347291. Recommend we coordinate simultaneous attacks from different vectors to prevent enemy displacement. Harrison checked his targeting systems, seeing general areas of enemy activity, but lacking the precise target identification that Nicole was providing. Hog 3, maintain overwatch position. We'll handle the ground attack. But Nicole had already identified the specific buildings and positions that Taliban forces were using for their ambush, based on her extensive experience with enemy tactics in similar terrain. Her medical training allowed her to assess the urgency of the evacuation, while her combat flying experience told her exactly how to eliminate the threats. Hog Lead, enemy forces are using the delay between attacks to reposition. They're setting up for RPG attacks on the medical helicopter. Recommend immediate coordinated gun run. The situation deteriorated rapidly as Taliban fighters began launching rocket-propelled grenades at the evacuation site, forcing the medical team to seek cover while wounded soldiers remained exposed to enemy fire. The ambush was succeeding because American air support couldn't achieve the precision and coordination necessary to suppress multiple enemy positions simultaneously. Nicole made a tactical decision that would save American lives. Hog Lead, I'm engaging priority targets. Medical personnel are going to die if we don't eliminate these positions immediately. Hog 3, maintain your assigned position. That's an order. But Nicole had already rolled into a gun run that used the A-10's legendary GAU-8 cannon to eliminate enemy positions with surgical precision. Her attacks were perfectly coordinated with the medical team's movement and timed to provide maximum suppression while avoiding friendly fire incidents. The distinctive sound of the A-10's cannon filled the valley as Nicole's precision strikes systematically dismantled the Taliban ambush. Her understanding of both medical requirements and ground attack tactics allowed her to neutralize threats while creating opportunities for the evacuation to proceed. Dustoff 7, enemy fire is suppressed, medical evacuation proceeding. Harrison watched in amazement as Nicole conducted textbook close air support using techniques he'd never seen before. Her precision and tactical coordination were turning a potential disaster into a successful evacuation of critically wounded soldiers. The engagement continued for 40 minutes, with Nicole providing the kind of surgical close air support that could only come from someone who understood both medical priorities and ground attack flying. Her strikes eliminated enemy positions while protecting civilian buildings and evacuating personnel. After landing at Bagram, Harrison approached Nicole with questions that had been building throughout the mission. Doc, where did you learn to fly close air support like that? That wasn't flight surgeon training. Nicole secured her aircraft and gathered her medical equipment before answering. Major, I've been involved in medical evacuation operations for 7 years. The flying skills are secondary to understanding what the ground teams need to succeed. But you flew like a combat veteran. That level of precision doesn't come from administrative flying. For the first time, Nicole's medical officer cover began to crack. Sir, some medical assignments require capabilities that aren't listed in standard job descriptions. I fly because wounded soldiers need someone who understands both medicine and close air support. Harrison realized he was discovering something that had been hidden from the squadron. You're not just a flight surgeon, are you? Major, some operations require people who can fulfill multiple roles when circumstances demand it. What matters is that the evacuation succeeded and wounded soldiers received medical care. The mission debrief revealed that Nicole had conducted 31 precision gun runs during the engagement, all successful with 0 civilian casualties. Her tactical coordination had been flawless, demonstrating expertise that surprised experienced close air support veterans. Word of the operation spread throughout the attack pilot community at Bagram. The story of the flight surgeon who'd saved a medical evacuation using impossible flying skills became legendary among A-10 crews operating in Afghanistan. The next week, Harrison specifically requested Nicole for all high-risk medical evacuation missions. Her unique combination of medical knowledge and close air support expertise proved invaluable for operations where wounded soldiers needed both immediate medical care and precision air support. But Nicole never revealed the full scope of her combat flying background. She understood that her classified close air support missions had to remain secret, and that her medical officer cover provided the perfect explanation for capabilities that actually came from years of combat operations in modified aircraft. During briefings for new A-10 pilots deploying to Afghanistan, she would often remind them that close air support required understanding the ground situation as well as flying skills. The A-10 can eliminate any ground target, she would tell them, but only if the pilot understands what the people on the ground actually need to accomplish their mission. Months later, when Taliban forces intensified their attacks on medical facilities, American evacuation operations relied heavily on close air support techniques that Nicole had developed during her classified flying career. Her understanding of both medical requirements and ground attack tactics proved critical for maintaining casualty evacuation capabilities in increasingly dangerous environments. Years later, A-10 pilots throughout Afghanistan would credit Nicole with revolutionizing their approach to medical evacuation support. They learned that the most effective close air support often came from pilots who understood mission requirements beyond just flying and shooting, and that expertise in modern warfare required knowledge that transcended traditional military specializations. The A-10 Thunderbolt II continued to provide unmatched close air support throughout the region, flown by pilots who understood that their mission success depended on supporting ground forces whose requirements were often more complex than simple target elimination. Nicole's contributions to medical evacuation operations remained classified, but her influence on close air support procedures ensured that hundreds of wounded soldiers benefited from techniques that combined flying expertise with medical knowledge. She had chosen mission effectiveness over recognition, understanding that the most critical saves were often achieved by people whose multiple capabilities had to remain hidden.